What is up, everybody? This is our third episode with Pete and I, and we've got a guest. Hopefully, he'll be joining us regularly. Mr. Brett Neal. He's from High Velocity Accounting. I actually have a history with Brett, so he helped me a lot in my business, and he's got that experience and expertise behind the number side of the business, which is so important for us to begin understanding those and get to where we know how to look at some financials and be able to make decisions, in our business. So welcome, guys. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me and having me on. I appreciate you.
Glad to have you. So we didn't really plan anything tonight. We're just gonna roll with it and just some dudes talking some HVAC business. So
yeah, I was I was looking for some comments on the last one, and I really didn't see anything that that jumped out. But since we've got Brett here and he's kind of our numbers guy and everything else, maybe we ought to take advantage of that and see if we can help some of the guys out there, because I know that was when I had my business, that was one of the biggest things. I was one of the biggest things. I was really confident. From the technical aspect, we did some of the best work in town. I mean, even the inspectors said at our company that was the best work, which for us, that was like the ultimate compliment. My customer's going to love me now, right? I'm going to have all this success. But there were other factors that had to be blended in. And, you can do the best work and you can actually do the best marketing and bring all this stuff in. But if the numbers don't work, you're not going to make it. And I really got hurt. There was a really bad point in my business, and I think Kelly, you went through some of this too. That you learn or you die. And I went to school. I took a lot of financial class. I went to Dr. Ron Collier. We talked about Ruth King. I went to her class. I went to just a ton of this stuff from way back in the 90s. Most of these guys aren't even around anymore, maybe Ruth. And now we got Brett here, so maybe we can talk about that and just maybe keep it fundamental, no, let's just, run it wherever it goes. But maybe just start off and at least make sure that the guys understand the fundamentals. And then, and if you go too deep, we'll pull you back. Brett.
Yeah, try not to geek out and go down too much. But honestly, right. I'm learning a lot too, because I'm learning the language, the lingo, trying to pull myself out of GAAP accounting, which is useless and doesn't make any sense to the majority of us, and get into direct labor, cost of goods sold, understanding, cash flow. We were in the office, we were kind of kidding around, and I was like, can you just put net income, like beginning cash, net income, right? Where the money went and ending cash? Could we just have that statement? It seems like it'd be a little more clear. But I'm happy to talk. I have my 10 things accounting. I suppose if I were going to write a book, kind of would be my caveat. So 10 things.
When you write a book, that will be your caveat.
Yeah, but if I write a book, it's going to be one of those things where I just talk and somebody pulls that knowledge out of my head.
Okay.
I don't see myself physically writing a book.
There's softwares for that, translating software. So
yeah.
So yeah, well, real quick, I'll just add kind of to what Pete was saying, is that what happened to me several times is, as long as we were busy, things were good, like life was golden. And as soon as it started slowing down, that's when you really realize, because the cash is flowing in so fast that you don't realize you're not making money.
Yeah.
During those times of year. And we're just coming off of a really long summer for a lot of people. I mean, it was extended. I know it was through the Midwest. It was hot all the way through September. That hasn't happened in 10 years. So you have a really good summer, as long as it's hot and the phones are ringing, you think you're making money until it slows down. And then you realize, hey, I've got these big bills hanging over me that I still got to pay. And seems like my cash flow is low. So
yeah, not only that, Kelly, my grandpa, my grandfather was self-employed, and he told me, I guess I was about 12 years old, I would go help him out in his shop. Now, he did printing. He was a commercial artist. And he said, he was frustrated. He said, son, when you get older, you need to take some accounting. He said, there's nothing any worse than to have earned a bunch of money and it's sitting in the bank and you don't know if you can spend it or not, whether or not it's yours. And somebody was talking about this just the other day, and they had, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars in the bank, and they had just spent some money on something, and the accountant was like, whoa, you've got a big tax deposit due, whatever it was. And and he's freaking out because he can't cover that. And these are the kind of things that we ought to consider. And I remember Gary Alex, because I knew Gary back when he had hair. We go way back. He used to work for Linux, and I did too. And he said the biggest thing was proper departmentalization. You got to get everything in the right bucket if you're going to understand your numbers, if you're going to understand your business. And so I wanted to throw that in the mix as we really set Brett up for to pull him in six directions here.
What do you see happening, Brett? Like people that how would you say you get a lot of customers that are just coming to you who have not had, that their accounting is an absolute mess? I mean, I know that even with some structure, it needs to be structured a certain way, so, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a number. I'm sure there's $20 million companies out there that basically still operate out of a checkbook. And that's where I kind of get excited. I see when we started out, I think our average company was a $500,000 company that was definitely transitioning quickly. We were able to help them put in a process and kind of get things going. It's usually a kind of little bit of feedback, not a lot of input. There's not a lot of transactions, but as we've grown with our clients, I'm all about putting in a process. Why not do it from the beginning? It's hard. I'm thinking about starting a new company. And if I thought, okay, before I even make $1, I'm supposed to hire a lawyer, I'm supposed to hire an accountant, I'm supposed to wrap my truck, I'm supposed to get a lease on a place, get inventory. It's scary, super scary. But QuickBooks Online is cheap. Whatever CRM that you're going to use is the cost that you're already paying. I don't know what the number is, but I can tell you that the moment that you do implement a process and you are able to review those financial statements, you know that you're moving the needle. I couldn't imagine not understanding if you're moving the needle or not, right? Hey guys, we're going to make this change. We're going to get in there and do it this way. Month goes by and maybe have more cash in the bank, but do you know why? That seems like chasing your tail a little bit.
Yeah,
good stuff. So what do you see with these guys are trying to understand their overhead, and it's such an up and down business, seasonal, and it just seems like we got all this work. We see these guys do it all the time. Summertime's kicking and they're out there. Next thing you know, before the end of the summer, they got a new truck. And because this is going to last forever. And then these things fall off. While the cash flow goes up and down, the overhead tends to be a lot more stable. Can you kind of speak to that? There's a number of directions.
Overhead goes up quite a bit in an inflationary
that's true.
And I definitely saw that this year, under budgeted overhead in certain areas. Ask the question again, because I don't know if you could, I'd like to.
A lot of guys, what their end target is, how do I price my services? And the general advice is, well, you gotta know your overhead, right? So you got to be able to cover that. And so they try to figure this out. And so in trying to hit their numbers, these are two different things, but in trying to find out, what do I charge for service calls? What do I charge for, equipment replacement? What do I charge for my maintenance agreements? What do I, accessories and so forth? They're trying to, put these two together. And what really complicates things are this just up and down, workload. And so, which makes it even that much tougher. When I say speak to that, just kind of, wherever that takes you with your experience so far, maybe what
I
you're
laugh.
seeing?
I mean, I laugh at a specific story, and I'm thinking about seasonality, and we went into it with a budget this year, 2022. In December, we had a great budget, going to hit, um, 3 million for the year, and on pace to do it, caught up. But January, February, March was bad, and it was bad for almost everybody. Like the first
Yeah.
quarter of the year was hard, definitely on the West Coast, and metrics, budget, forecast, like it was a joke. It was like, well, dude, are we even going to make money? Are you trying? Is there a reason this is happening? And just being the accountant, like that was tough. It was hard to even kind of institutionalize like what was really happening, because here we'd put in so much work to make it happen, and took into effect seasonality, and adding crew and adding trucks down the line, and how much is that going to affect cash flow. We're ready for that. Three months in, and we're operating at a net loss, and it's like, oh my gosh, do we pull the, do we scratch it? Do we say no? Do we what do we do? Well, we stuck to the plan. We stuck to the plan, and things ironed out. So but if you didn't have some sort of like goalpost or path on your trail, maybe a little ribbon that you walk to the next ribbon, and you still kind of wander in between, that could have been disastrous. It could have been like, we don't even know what we're doing if we just didn't have some sort of path. So
I
I
think
felt
that's a universal truth. And, Kelly's an expert on this. And, getting yourself, let's just say, motivated on an exercise program, getting that back in shape. And by setting these goals that are attainable, and breaking them, into, I guess, time frames or whatever, maybe in 90 days, I'm going to be here, in 180 days, I'm going to be there. And, and here's how I'm going to do it. But if you just say, well, I'm going to get in shape, or I'm going to get muscles on my body here, but you don't actually have a workout plan, a diet plan, and these incremental goals, you're just not going to get there. And it's a universal truth is what I was thinking. And so I can so much relate to that, because we tend to forget these things. Just send me customers, I'll make the
the
money.
basics. It's the basics. You got to have a goal. It's like, I think one of my books, I came up with this analogy of like, think of like trying to hit a dartboard with a blindfold on, with no target to even look at or strive for. Then you have no idea what you're even doing, and it's the difference between you sell, let's say you sell 6 systems, small company, 6 systems, and it's the 15th of the month, and you need 13 or you need 16. Well, if you know that you need 16, you know how many days you have left to fill the schedule. That automatically creates, that you're not there. So it creates a dissonance in your brain, in your mind, that says, hey, Kelly's saying we need to hit this goal, but we're not quite there. And it actually creates internal motivation for you to move and make stuff happen. And so it's that important to have those goals and have those targets, or you're shooting in the dark, and who knows where you're going to wind up. There's all kinds of analogies, a sailboat without a sail, a race car without a steering wheel. So you have to have a target.
and maybe just how do you celebrate too? I mean, if you didn't have your
Yeah,
goals and then you hit them, how are people getting spiffs and bonuses and little pats on the bottom? I don't know if that happens, but
I'm sure it
you
happens
gotta.
in some shops.
Anyway,
No.
but yeah, so what do you say to, this is kind of both for both you guys. What do you say to those guys that motivation is the internal motivation is just really tough to muster, because they come from a world of external motivation and pressure. All of a sudden, I'm out here, my own boss, and nobody has to tell me what to do, and I'm struggling, and I don't seem to get motivated until my checking account gets down to under $100, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and now I do hustle. What, how do I calibrate my own thermostat? For my financials, do I need a coach to get on the phone with me and let's go? Do I need, some accounting support? with some financial reporting and some updates saying, listen, if you're going to hit on track, we need to be here this month. And, let's break that down into jobs like what Kelly just said. How would you approach that? Because, I think we all kind of know what to do, but we lose focus and we get tied up in all the stuff,
I'd like to hear Brett's answer,
Ah,
because you have to have people who are have avoided the accounting portion of their business, period. It's avoidance, you don't want to face the facts. So I'm
I'd heard
curious.
once that like people don't check their investment portfolios when they know the market's down, right? But
Yes.
if they think their stocks are up, they're definitely in there checking them. And accountability. But when I think about that, like I never want those financial statement meetings to be like dragging your tail in to look at financials to beat you up. I mean, that's, we all know, I don't want to say, intuitively, you have gut instincts, things are right or things are wrong. My experience is good or bad. Once we get in our process, everyone's excited because we're going to find something from it. Right? It's a challenge that we can see now and overcome. So it's not how come there's no money in the bank. It's why did the cost of equipment go up this month? What did we do? What did we change? Why is net profit down? Right? What are the actual effects of things that we did? And that I think gives guidance to go at it, whether we meet monthly, weekly, quarterly, to go on about your day and kind of change. You're less of, more of, stop, start.
Keep.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, he just said start, stop, keep. What's going right, what's going bad, what do we need to change to just make the adjustments necessary. It's all about course correction. It's like the old story of, if Brett knows, like, for a pilot, there has to be, you can't just point the plane in one direction and say, oh, we're going to Los Angeles. Like, if you don't course correct along the way, then you're not going to make it there, because there's other elements, involved, I'm sure. I mean, you would know way more about that than me. So tell me I'm stupid if I'm if I'm completely wrong, but you have to course correct, right?
No,
And that's what it's about.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, I feel like I want to hear what Kelly has to say, just because I do feel like it's a mental challenge. I mean, how do you get out of bed every morning and be excited about, I seriously, honestly, if oh my gosh, your checking account has $100 in it and I better get to work. I would imagine if that's happened once, I get it. If it's happening a few times, might want to make a career change, might want to focus on just working with somebody, right? Or finding out how to get a coach or something like that, because that's just not a good way to live. That's not going to be comfortable. And not that any of this has to be comfortable. It's all a challenge. If you're not challenged, you're not moving forward or going a different direction. Not that you need to be every day. A day on the beach should not be challenging. Some days should be relaxful.
Amen.
Yeah, and
there's a certain amount of pressure that has to be applied, but it can't be overwhelming all the time, for sure.
Yeah, but not to discourage those who are having that problem, because a lot of times it's just a matter of getting that paradigm shift, seeing things from an employee's perspective all these years, and then all of a sudden as an owner. And, as business managers and leaders, we have to do this. We have to, because I still know business owners that they're out there trying to motivate their team, saying, hey, we need to build more money. You need to sell more stuff. And I learned this in NLP way back in the day, is the constant question that we're always asking ourselves is, what does this mean to me in my world, in my life? And so as leaders, we have to maybe set some goals out there that aren't directly money, but we translate them within the office and they are to us. But for the team, it's about, who's gotten the most maintenance agreements sold this month, or who's had the most I don't know, service, what will be the terminology, service call not upsells, but
Accessory sales,
solutions.
maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
So this kind of stuff. So maybe what we need as business owners is, as we're coming into this, is to be able to translate that a little bit, because we'll sit in the conversation and Brett just lights up and he's all excited and everything else, and like Pete, back in my early 30s, I'd be in the corner yawning, I'm just talking about something more, because there's a disconnect, you know what I'm saying? So as that bridges, motivating yourself by, one way or another. What I teach, what I do is we look at the history, we look at the overhead, we come up with a monthly, and we know the GP on all these, and we literally break them into, okay, you need this many service calls, you need this many estimates because your closing ratio to get this many installs, and this is your goal every week. You got to hit this. You got to sell another job.
Yeah.
As long as you hit this, you're going to hit your number. If you sell one system a week, if you're just brand new and you have, I don't know, 5 service calls with your average ticket, and you're off on a maintenance agreement and you're getting 1 out of 3 of those, or 50% of those, or whatever your number is, you're moving ahead. So translating that to something that, I can relate to and get pumped, but these percentages and these acronyms and all this stuff, until you start to, you put that together and then can get emotionally invested, like experts like you guys have been around.
Make fun of me because I get excited about it. Gosh.
Right.
I'm going to Nextar's business planning workshop in a couple weeks, and I'm crazy excited about that. I have a million questions. I'm going to be eyes on, ears on. The Nextar coach knows I'm going in like with my hair standing up, like, oh my gosh, let's go. I'm on fire. And that is that translation.
Blast, man.
What's that?
It'll be so much fun. You'll have a blast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Get to hang out with your buddy.
I know, yeah.
My buddy.
To find out who I really am.
Yeah. No.
But that is that translation of dollars into physical labor, or that transaction. And like one of the biggest challenges I ask every company is, how do you get the guys to clock in? How do you get them to clock in and clock out? How do you get those getting those efficiency ratios and those effective ratios? That in itself is a challenge. I think it'd be kind of fun to just do ride along, start the clock, right? Stop the clock, maybe something like that. Just kind of test.
To some business owners, that wouldn't be fun at all.
I know.
It would be a nightmare because you would realize where all your money's going. But it's all back to what we're, to take a couple of steps back. It's all feedback. This is where my mind always goes to, is everything is feedback. And there's a saying, like, let's say you get a bad review. That is feedback, but one bad review, there's what does the guy say? He's like, if one person calls you a horse, they're probably just crazy. If a group of people call you a horse, then there's a conspiracy afoot. But if 20 or 30 or 50 people are calling you a horse, it's probably time to buy a saddle. Yeah. So it's like, so we have to take some feedback, because not all feedback is all relevant. It's depending on the sources coming from, or whether it's the number side or showing no profit in your business, because whatever it is, it's all feedback, all of it. And so you just have to look at it as feedback and make sure to take it in and see if there's anything you can change. I know for me, there was lots of things I could change to change my bottom line, because I never had super strong financials, never. And I don't ever go out there saying I'm awesome and I did all these great things. I never did. But I know for me, it was about my time. And so I had people in place in my business that I could allow me to create videos, to create a program, to create whatever I wanted. So I allowed it. And instead of, trimming some things, that would have drastically improved my bottom line, I chose not to. And that was my choice. And, you know, I don't regret it because that's what I wanted. It's not all about money either, you know? So, although I could have increased my pay and bottom line by tens and tens of thousands of dollars, I chose not to. So, but was I avoiding it? Maybe I was avoiding it a little bit because I wanted to do my own thing where maybe that wasn't the best in the best interest of the business, you know? So there's always things that we either take action on to change or we choose not to change. And it's really just comes down to your values, what you value.
Yeah. And, you know, the feedback thing, the quote, this deja vu, I think we talked about this on one of the prior calls. Ron Smith taught what gets measured is what gets done. And so when you measure something, you're looking for the feedback, but you're getting feedback in everything that you do. And my big thing, you know, just like Neal gets all excited about the numbers, I get excited about the psychology of this stuff. But when you're doing these things, you're not getting the sales, you're not getting the customers. They don't value you, but yet they're not buying from you, but you think your customers love you. And it's like that you know, the kid in high school that kept hitting on all the girls and they would like make the faces and he just didn't get it. And he just tried harder, right? You have to be able to, you know, recognize the feedback, you know, look for it. It's some of the stuff has to be brought to our attention.
Go for no. What? Go for no.
Go for no.
It's a numbers game. What are you talking about?
fall down 1,000 times. What is it? I don't know. Whatever it is, right?
And while that's true, and you can do that from a marketing perspective with your customers, you know, you just keep pumping it out there. You're going to get the work. And, you know, we as an industry, we've really been fortunate that, you know, there's guys, and I'm telling you firsthand experience, when I sold my business and I went to work for Lennox, and I went from, you know, only knowing my world to going to business after business after business after business and being in their offices and seeing how drastically different they were. I was amazed. I mean, how is this company even surviving? You know, but they were in the right place, and it was just sheer numbers, you know. But when the times get tough, and I'm not going to go down this path too far, guys, but when the times get tough, you better, you know, sharpen, you know, your skills on recognizing these things. And you do have to be able to, you know, get that feedback, or, you know, measure these different things like your numbers, you know, like your sales, you know, your processes, your team's motivation. Your employees just smile and, you know, okay, boss, you know, oh, we're doing, you went to a seminar, we're going to do a new thing. Oh, great. You know, and when they're in the parking lot talking to each other, they may have a different perspective. And so we have to look beyond what we think we perceive and learn to measure deeper, perhaps. And another universal truth, your numbers, your marketing, your leadership, you know, sales.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it could be, I mean, it could be daunting. There's no, I mean, that, you know, small business, being a small business person, it's either, I mean, for myself, I was just either, you know, stupid or bullheaded, like, oh, this is the way I'm going. Or finally got enough hard knocks that I realized there's actually some science to it, a little bit of math to it, kind of some purpose and a plan. I don't have to be the one that wins. Everyone can win and change the whole vision about what's going on in the world. And it's changed my life. One of the reasons I got into business, that I wanted to be own a business, was opportunity. I said, at the very least, I'm going to talk with people and I'm going to find opportunity and find new ways of looking at things. And that's definitely what's been my history, or kind of my, you know, what I recall going through the years. And I'm so happy to be where I'm at now, to have these conversations with you guys, because it makes sense to me. I don't think 5 years ago I could have shown up and been comfortable enough, you know, listening to you guys talk about HVAC and conversion rates and stuff like that. And it's a lot to learn that lingo, but I'm in a place now where I can share, and I'm looking forward to going on site and working with these guys and kind of put some stuff in place, and, you know, find where my communication fails. You know, where did I not deliver for you?
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion, we talked about this on a prior, that there's three categories. Fundamentally, uh, one is in our business. One is obviously the craft. You gotta know what you're doing. And the other two are marketing and management. Management obviously is heavily into the numbers, and we tend to want to just kind of stay in our comfort zone with the technical side, and until we commit ourselves and get invested in these other two areas and get good at them, we're going to be at the mercy of somebody else. It could be your customer, because you're not, your numbers aren't right. You're always having to get price competitive. It could be that your marketing agency that is you've got to be paying them because their job is to make the phone ring, and then you just want to hand it to them. But when you start to dive into these different areas, you understand that the better you understand this as a business owner, the more empowered you are to take control and go to new levels. So many of the guys, we talk about this offline. So many of these guys out there that they're the successes and they're doing all these wonderful things. They are not what they perceive to be. They're just as vulnerable. They have their downs just as much as you and I and everybody else. And a lot of them are going through some hard times, but you'll never know it because that's just not something you post on Facebook, right? Or on
there's a persona to uphold. That's one thing I've tried not to have, like this super persona. So
you failed miserably, man.
YouTube's
famous.
My one platform, basically. So I just stuck with it, and after 8 years, it's finally doing something. So
yeah, I'm subscribed. So what?
Thanks, appreciate that.
I like the video. I always hit the like button for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support. So, Brett, you were talking about you've got a list. You've got a list. Let's start talking about some of that.
Yeah,
list.
I mean, conversation points. A little bit is kind of what we've addressed a little bit. Number one is accounting sucks. It's tedious, monotonous. It's repetitive. It's in the details. If you're kind of in the clouds, if you're supposed to be an entrepreneur, you're building your companies, it's hard to get each and every aspect to feed into the next one, to fill the kitty, to complete the financial statements. The process of your company, and each, as you talked about, right? Your craft, marketing, sales, HR, each thing has a process, and accounting is a process. And I just kind of put it out there. Accounting sucks. I was an aircraft mechanic, used to fly aerobatic airplanes. I still fly. It's my airplane behind me. Don't fly upside down anymore, not intentionally. Yeah, but when I first became a CPA and got behind the desk, I went, oh dear, what have I done? Right? What position is this? It was just very boring and hard for me. I was always on my feet. They were like, everyone would be like, Brett, where's Brett? I was on my feet. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
But truth is, it's been great. It is the business. The language of business. And so helping me, connect that has been big. So number two is don't be an accountant. Don't get out of the truck just to become an accountant. I hear some of these kind of the big players and knowledgeable people, and rightfully so, saying know your numbers. And they're obviously not just talking about financial statement numbers, they're talking about conversion rates and that kind of stuff.
Rates, yes. Turnovers.
Right. It's the whole package of numbers. But, I hear them saying, hey, I can read I can read a P&L, and, I can come in there and yes, absolutely. What I mean to say is, like, don't try to come in there and figure it out. Sure, you can fire up QuickBooks Online and ServiceTitan or House Call Pro and get it connected. You can, you can get the price book. You can update the price book. You can fix the link. Right? You can go in and change the repetition of the whole thing. But you don't necessarily have to understand GE's financial statements or profit and loss statement, but you do need to understand your own, right? So the third one is do know your numbers. Accounting sucks. Don't be an accountant. somewhat be an accountant. Know your numbers, figure it out, figure out how you're going to. Hopefully your accountant that you work with or bookkeeper, someone in-house, maybe can read a book. We kind of go over it. I know that's one of your questions is how can I understand my profit and loss? Simplify it. A lot of people have a lot of accounts, have less accounts. In QuickBooks, you can hit collapse if you have a lot of like sub accounts. And then put the margins next to it. Just put margin percent of income. And that's where most businesses are kind of guiding themselves month to month. Get an idea. Of course, everything needs to be in the right spot and consistent, repetitive, but that's kind of the idea. I don't know. You want number 4? Or I might have to look back at number 4. Having been an aircraft mechanic, people care way more about their finances than they do death. Like when I was working on airplanes, I remember changing the rudder cables out for one of those like Red Bull aerobatic airplanes. And the guy went up right after I was done and did kind of this knife edge right off the ground thing. And I mean, as an aircraft mechanic, I was 18 out of high school. I pretty much didn't sleep at night. I was constantly worried, who's flying the airplane tomorrow? Did I do the right, did I put the safety wire on it? Did I actually torque that bolt? Did I put in the cotter pin? I mean, I was very concerned. And to have this guy take off and fly like that, like that was like it for me. I'm like, I need a job that is not as harsh. And intro to accounting, and people are just go crazy if you get that stuff wrong. And again, rightfully so, it's money, but it's correctable. It's always kind of been my thought, like death isn't. So I guess it's just kind of a story, a little takeaway, and I get it. And that's why at high velocity accounting, it's really integrity and honesty are kind of like our top guides because if we don't have that, what do we deliver? The other one, I kind of heard this a lot. I hear it. What's the difference between a CFO and an accountant and a bookkeeper, controller, CPA, clerk? I kind of wanted to give some reference around this because I don't feel like the question always gets answered, but it's going to be a difficult one because I'm not trying to step on anyone's foot or anything like that. It comes from different backgrounds, certainly, in each position because it has a title. Does not represent each person's background necessarily, but it fills a role. A lot of roles in accounting are instituted to have controls. The same person who touches money should not be the one depositing the money, right? The same person receiving money and creating the invoice and putting the price shouldn't necessarily be collecting the money and going to the bank with it. So you separate stuff. In the older days, you had a clerk, an accounts receivable clerk, an accounts payable clerk, only operate in those fields, sales, etc. Kind of go down the list. Then you have a bookkeeper, and a bookkeeper has kind of transformed to probably can handle AR, probably can handle AP, probably understands a little bit of technology, House Call Pro, Service Titan, can import and transact, may or may not have a degree in accounting, right? So again, we don't necessarily know the background. They could be pretty educated or at least like in the field necessarily, like totally get what the financial statement should look like. The CPA is a title. It's a test that somebody took. So accountant is still the AR, AP clerk, a bookkeeper, CPA. Separate CPA and accountant and kind of go to like the next step, I guess, would be a controller. The controller, I feel, is the controlling the accounting department, making sure the AP clerk is doing their process, the AR clerk is doing their process, that the books are getting reconciled, that the bookkeeping is getting done. And that might be in a traditional format, accrual accounting, journal entries being posted at the end of the month, accrual postings of payroll, right? Inventory adjustments. These are stuff that don't necessarily happen in most, probably less than $20 million books, and probably some even more, right? To kind of keep those books consistent. So the controller's overseeing that typically. But again, in a smaller, maybe they're titled a controller and they're doing all of the jobs, AR, AP, they collect the cash, they're trusted, they take the cash to the bank because you trust them. I don't know, right? But it happens. And I kind of feel like that's kind of the division. After that, you probably take your books to a CPA or a tax accountant. And that's because they've passed the test. A CPA can talk to the Internal Revenue Service, but so can a lawyer. And then so can an enrolled agent. An enrolled agent is an EA, someone who takes a test with the IRS. So, you're not asking your bookkeeper to necessarily do tax research, right? You should probably be speaking to, and you may have hired a CPA in your business that kind of does all of that stuff. You get back to the jack of all trades. Can they really be on top of what current tax law is? Are they making sure that you didn't, went from 49 to your 50th employee, and now all of a sudden you're supposed to be enacting whatever it is, an IRA or 401k or something like that. So, you still need HR, some other support. Perhaps, maybe the person's perfect and you pay them a ton of money and they can totally handle it. So then kind of outside of that, I jumped the gun to the CFO, a certified, chief financial officer. And again, it could be, it's their background, but it's probably in finance, not necessarily a CPA. I consider a true CFO to be more worried about the flow of cash than what is happening with accounting. They're generally not going to be concerned about debits and credits. They're not even concerned how those numbers got there. They're going to believe that those numbers are right. And then what they're looking at is capital, internal rate of return. Right now, a yield on a 10-year bond is 4.5%. If your company's not yielding an internal rate of return of 4.5%, you should just go put your money in a 10-year bond. You could sleep at night, right? Unless you have growth and, mindset and things like that are happening. But my point being is that the next truck that you buy give you that rate of return. And that's what a CFO is trying to do. We kind of talked about a little bit earlier. I'm at 10 trucks, 3 install crews, 4 service. We hit X amount net profit. Next year, I want to double, right? Well, I'm not just going to double my revenues, and we have to deal with 8% inflation, 10%, 15%, the reality of whatever you're actually buying, gas, something like tires. Right. So what we want to do is calculate that at the end of the year. So you say, okay, sure, we're going to buy 5 trucks, but we know what that costs, lease, depreciation, however you go about it. We know what those additional employees are going to cost us. We know what they're supposed to earn us to keep our margins. We know what our conversions should be, and we know what our marketing should be. It's beautiful once it's in place.
Yeah.
And I know how much cash I'll have at the end of the day. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody needs one of those. But I know that's not, it's not reality. It's not possible for a smaller business. But yeah, that's I appreciate you breaking that down, because we hear these terms thrown around all the time, and I feel like there's not much clarity around it, and it sounds like there is wiggle room either way, depending on their background and what their actual responsibilities are for your company. But still, a general knowledge of what these particular positions do, because I've heard people out there say, well, you just get yourself a controller. Just get yourself a controller. Like, that's what you need. It's going to fix everything. And, that's not always the case. So not that it wouldn't be, it depends on what those responsibilities are and what they're actually going to take care of for you.
I don't even feel like that's a good keyword, like HVAC in my area. Boom, boom, boom. Controller in my area. I don't know. I suppose you get something, but yeah, it's a difficult, or controllership or something like that. People kind of say, I don't even know if that's the right word, right? It's just being
how do you even
market
your company in need of that particular position? Like,
so but start with something. Start with someone. Don't abdicate, right? Don't just say, well, my bookkeeper's doing it. Review it, get in there, look at it.
Yeah.
Do try to separate controls. Don't let the same people that are handling cash take the cash to the bank that also are invoicing and things like that. At the very least, you've taken yourself out of the truck and you're trying to run your company. Maybe you stick to the cash. You collect the checks. Make sure that money's coming in and going to the bank. So often, after like a month, we're going through the books, we're looking through accounts receivable. I'm like, hey, this check hasn't cleared yet. Oh, it's in my jeans. It's in my pocket. It's been in your pocket for 3 weeks, man. Like, oh. That's my fault too, though, right? Got to make sure that information gets.
That's probably, Brett, one of the most important things for the small business owner to really pay attention to is that separation of the different roles or controlling of those. I can't tell you how many. I mean, recently, stories that I've heard about this person that's been running my books, been taking care of my office for all these years. I trust my life for that person who has literally embezzled tens of thousands, even more over a period of years. And, you know, it's in Latin American, they call it dar papaya. Give papaya is like a melon fruit. And their philosophy is, well, if you lay it out there and you're not paying attention to it, it means you don't want it. I'm going to take it. Right. So if you set yourself up to be taken advantage of, for a lot of people, that temptation is just, you know, it's difficult to deny. And when we project our values, well, I would never do that, onto our employees, they don't necessarily share the same values to the level that you think they do. Just because you won't do something doesn't mean somebody else won't. So, or just because, you know, you're afraid of something doesn't mean they will. So, you know, having those checks and balances in place are so important. I love that you brought that up. One other thing on a certified accountant, you kind of downplayed the importance of that as opposed to a regular accountant, in that they took a test. And that may be, you know, 100% accurate, but I seem to remember that at least one advantage, and I'd love to hear more if there are, was that if you're an audited, who was it that said that? It's way back in the day, and maybe it's changed, but he said only hire a certified, you know, public accountant, because if you're ever audited, you hand them, you know, Mr. Accountant, you're being audited. I'm going to play golf, right? And you know, and he's kind of, you know, dramatizing the situation. But if you don't have a certified, you're going to be part of that auditing process. Is that still true today? Do you know? Is that accurate?
As far as working with the IRS, that's why I say a lawyer or a CPA, or I believe an enrolled agent. There might be I don't know, and they know better. I feel like there's a difference of, you can do something in front of the IRS versus, you know, with or something like that. I kind of forget that terminology, but definitely CPAs and lawyers are on the same level. I do feel like an EA is as well. As far as, you know, part of the task in doing the controllership is keeping you out of audits. I have two theories on this. Most people don't really like the first one. The one is audits should happen so as to make sure that people are following the rules. It should be arbitrary, right? It shouldn't be a number thing. Unfortunately, the reality is they probably are a number thing, and you probably are audited on some sort of suspicion and money-making thing that they, you know, think will make it worth their time. But if you're using a receipt reader like Auto Entry or Dext, or I don't know what the popular one is on TV, see commercials for it a lot, but even like QuickBooks has like a receipt capture. We help get all of that in place so that the books are audit ready. If IRS says, hey, let me see this transaction, it's literally, here's the link to it.
So that new hire that the Internal Revenue Service made, so is it like 60,000, some ridiculous number of agents for auditing and everything else? Is it true that they hired them specifically for HVAC contractors?
That's funny.
So you got that. There's half the listeners out there, their heart just dropped.
Right.
But they did hire a bunch of agents, and it makes you wonder what they're up to. But
I mean, just so you're not losing sleep on that, it is supposed to be over 10 years, right? The 87,000 IRS agents, and they're not all field agents necessarily. It's the IRS, right? Some people are pushing pencils and you know, material and copy and stuff like that. So
yeah, evidently there's good money in taxes, so they're hiring. That's good.
I always tell everybody, and I've preached this for years, is just the HVAC business is a complicated business. You're not going to convince me that. I'm sure there are other businesses out there that can be extremely complicated. I think in maybe some aspects, when I think about like maybe manufacturing, might be a pretty tough business sometimes. You've got product, you've got you know, product that's currently being, you know, worked on to from raw material to product to being shipped. I could see how there could be logistics and all kinds of things that could make something like that. And depending on what material you work with, that could be difficult too. such as like airplane manufacturing or something. But overall, I'm telling you, the HVAC business is a complicated business to some degree, and I feel like it takes years to get proficient at it. Like Pete was saying, like you got to be good. If you're going to be the one running the calls when you open a business or for the first 5 or 6 years while you grow it, if it's going to be you or you're going to be heavily involved in providing the service, then you have to be good at what you do. And so of course, we've got to make time to actually work on the business. But in order to free headspace and to have more creativity, more energy to actually grow the business, I've talked to lots of business owners and they're still coming home at night and they're doing their books all weekend long, or they're doing them all night. And I just think that's a mistake. I think you really should hire somebody. If that's not what you do for a living before you decided to become, you know, become an HVAC technician or a business owner, if that's not what you do, then let an expert handle that. That's great that you know how to do it. And I want you to continue to like look at it and measure it. Like Pete said, what gets measured gets done, and it gets managed. It should be looked at and measured, but there's
Always,
so many other things that are more vital to the growth of the business if that's your goal than bookkeeping and accounting. So give that to a professional. Do it that way. It's done right, and they can actually help you and become a partner with you to help you make better decisions, or you have those questions. Should I buy a truck? Hey, I've got 100 and whatever. I got $200,000 in the bank. It's my second year in business. I'm showing a net profit of 250,000 or something. And it's like, what do I do? Should I, in order to adjust my tax liability, should I buy a truck? Should I buy two? I'm going to hire 2 people next year. And so it just helps to have somebody else to look at it with you, because if you're not an accountant. So I just always advise people, just hire a professional.
and I've got a caveat to that because I'm in full agreement. All these services that are out there, guys, they're out there for a reason. It's because we need them. Okay, we need that help. But if you can discipline yourself to always be building that curiosity, stay curious, try to continue to learn, because any new thing that is thrown at you, it is overwhelming. So you're looking at all this accounting and everything else. But if you'll get curious, if you'll get interested, and you'll start trying to understand some of this, what initially is overwhelming and totally confusing becomes familiar, and you start to navigate your way through there. And I would say, and I don't want to speak for Brett here, but I would say that Brett would probably much rather work with somebody that's curious and they understand their own business well enough to partner in the relationship and have say, and as opposed to somebody saying, just take care of me, I don't know that kind of stuff, you handle that, and then then hold you liable later when something doesn't go wrong, or worse yet. But look, if you're going to run a business, you need to be a business person, not just a mechanic who instead of working for somebody else, works for themselves. Now there's growth, from employee mindset to the self-employed mindset to the business owner mindset. There's growth that comes with that. And so in order to get good at anything, you're going to have to be interested. You're going to have to be curious. So try to get interested in this kind of stuff. Maybe one day you can get just as excited as Brett about these numbers.
It's the 10th. Where are my numbers?
Right. Good stuff.
I love the fact that people will, teach themselves. People literally teach themselves how to do the basic bookkeeping. That's great. I think that's important, but you should not hold on to that. Your only focus, in my opinion, should be to go collect customers, sell jobs, earn money. And, that's, if you focus on that and you stop focusing on the bookkeeping, then you just have more energy. That's my bottom line. You have more energy and your head has more creative space to be able to be innovative and to be able to provide a better service for your customer and figure out ways to add value that nobody else is doing. But if all your waking hours are spent on either in the field or when you get home doing bids and doing bookkeeping, it just limits you. So
Yeah, well, that's certainly true.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and then
cool, guys.
unfortunately your downtime is like, I don't want to think about work. And so you're
Yeah.
probably not going to go out and go to a conference or join in maybe a chat. I mean, right, go find 10 companies and go share each other's cell phone numbers and start your own little chat room, and and share whatever the hell's going on in life.
Yeah.
But do that. Make sure to have that time and be uncomfortable, because yeah, like it's easy to do these things that and you're kind of comfortable with, but it's not driving the business forward, and that. And it's still hard to, like, even at that, like, you can't be the jack of all trades and oversee everything. You got to figure it out what it is that you want to do in your company. You don't even need to be the CEO necessarily, right? I mean, in your
Right.
own company. I mean, for me, I know that I really want to focus on making my clients happy. I want my clients to have an awesome, time working with us. And it's hard to get accountants to think like that, right? There's in the numbers that I'm like, hey, pull your head, like, up, look up in the screen for a minute. Look, there's someone smiling at you, right back at you. They're human beings.
Yeah, we can get lost in anything, that's for sure. Balance, recharge, get that personal time. Remember why you're in business to begin with. And I think, Kelly loves this too. Know who you are. You have to know who you are before you know what you want, and to understand, before you can understand what you want. And I think that was an interesting insight there, Brett, that maybe you don't want this particular role within your business. Maybe you need to either hire that out or bring a partner in, or something that allows you to be happy, to enjoy doing what you're doing. So good stuff, guys.
I mean, I think, any honest business owner is going to say, I didn't have every idea. There's just no way, right? Like, but you do have this vision. You have this crazy. I mean, I'm out of bed every morning, 5 a.m., like writing my notes. I hate the nights that I can't sleep because I'm excited about something. I never want that to go away, except for when I am done. When I say I'm
It's got to be
done.
fun. Yeah, it's got to be fun.
And that is not anywhere near today.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's pretty competitive out there. Well, guys, we're coming up on the hour here. Great stuff. I'm hoping you guys watching are enjoying this. I mean, you look at Kelly, his experience, his background, his great nature, his openness. Take advantage. Ask questions. The same thing with Brett here. This is the very first one. You've got somebody here that you can lean on, and at least get some general guidance to keep you going in the keep you going in the right direction, and yours truly as well. So if you guys want to have a specific topic that you want discussed, please share with us. We'll be posting this in different platforms, the three of us, and hopefully you enjoy these sessions. And we'll try to do it in a way that if you're driving, you can just listen. We're not showing anything. Some of us you don't want to look at anyway.
Write these 5 things down, right?
Write those 5 things down.
5 things
Yes,
down right now.
Absolutely.
Implement now, not tomorrow.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for tonight, whatever time you're listening to this, and we look forward to the next one, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Awesome. Thank you. My pleasure.
You guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.